So my name is Lokesh, and I had a stint in different multinationals, purely into commercials, a part of regulatory, market research, business development and all. But now I run a company of our own with some of my close ones, and it's a year since we started. And then I got to meet some of my good friends over here who started, but never knew that who started what. Okay, so the talk would, since the clock has already started, I wouldn't take much time. Initially, I thought it would be a 25-30 minutes time. So hence, I thought I'll position at least 4 slides, which would cover right from what is the kind of recent advancements that are going on from a space where innovators are struggling hard. Okay, I worked out of T-Hub for quite some time. I was helping them build the GTM strategies, build prototypes, and experiment how do they work, some of those inventions that they did. And they're phenomenal in nature, but most of them don't see the light of the day because they're terrific, their knowledge is terrific, their ability to understand the need of that is very good, but unfortunately they don't know how to commercialize. So I was building the GTM strategies for them. So for example, if I have to talk about the medical imaging, how revolutionized it is. Sitting over here, I'll talk about 3 days back event where my wife was subjected to an MRI for the fall that she had. By the time doctor was supposed to visit and look at that and tell us what has happened, in 15 to 20 minutes time, I had a message on my WhatsApp popping up. But of course, I couldn't decipher the complete information, or I couldn't understand because there was a lot of technical terminology, which is difficult for a non-medico to understand. So what I mean to say is how fast it is developing. One of the projects that I did while we were with Novartis is like, for example, you take leprosy. It is a disease we think it is gone forever. But you'll be surprised to know that more than a lakh of new cases are emerging at this point in time. But tell me how many dermatologists today would specialize in recognizing that patch. So there are around 10 to 15,000 images that were taken from 2 institutes, which were given to AI and put to work. You'll be surprised to know the prediction ratio in terms of differentiating a normal patch versus a leprosy patch was to the tune of around 97% in 8,000 samples that they did. But they had 15,000 samples more which they were uploading to see if it could see the light of the day, where it makes the job of any dermatologist so very easy. I'll not spend much time on it over here, and not even over here. Okay. So since I told you that one of the things that I do is, as a part of commercial strategy that we run in the current organization, a part of it is taken off, and we do a social work in terms of helping entrepreneurs find their feet when they find it very difficult to spend money to take it to the next stage. So if you ask me, around 7% of our budget that we work upon is spent on encouraging those startups to to make sure these products come to the usage cycle. So 2 of those things that I'm talking about, Engyne, which is well experimented in some of the coastal cities. There are around 28 doctors who have endorsed this product, and it's tested in AIIMS at this point in time while I'm talking to you. There are few certifications that they are awaiting, but no one in this room, especially women, when I talk about it, when it was supposed to be a cervical cancer detection, it was always a taboo, because in my earlier stint I worked in Novartis. I was working for a global health where we covered around 23,000 villages we adopted to build awareness, and then telling them the importance of getting the first test done when you have a doubt. But you can imagine when that's a taboo, these kind of inventions, when they come to light, when you can read about it, there's no, it's a non-invasive, and the accuracy is so good that within 12 to 14 minutes, it gives you a result in terms of the possibility of it, what is the staging, and what is the next steps that the patient needs to take. So government of Andhra Pradesh has now recognized this as one of the best inventions, and they have decided to fund it to take it to the next stage. The other one is the LifeSpark Technologies, which works upon where I mentor them in terms of helping them understand from a patient perspective and a customer perspective and a commercial perspective why what you bring needs to really see the value. So if you look at it, it does a neuromodulation to stimulate the muscles and improve the gait. So far, there have been simple treatments like, if you ask me, medicos who are sitting over here, we had carbidopa, levodopas of the world, which still remain a gold standard, and there are few more molecules which have come. But they haven't been able to give that patient the safety and security, but it treats you for a temporary time. The advantage with this is, these are wearable devices where they have done extremely well, and ICMR has approved it. AIMS have done around 118 patients trial. I'm so glad to let you know that it can predict the gait patterns. For example, if it records a kind of 24 hours to 48 hours of the patient's mobility, the muscle stimulation patterns, it can tell you at what point in time patient is likely to fall, when he's not supposed to take a risk of walking all alone. And over a period of time when the wearable device is used, it improves up to 30 to 33% of your mobility and brings back to you to the normalcy by stimulating the musculoskeletal system. So why I'm talking about all these things? There is a lot that happens. Being a T-Hub, I was the privileged member to know that there were, at any point in time, there were 142 people who were struggling to bring these kind of devices and show us how it works. One of those things which I really was stunned is, which is not featuring on the slide over here, is a device that they made, which is a pelvic floor strengthener. You know that when it comes to athletes, more than 40 to 50% of the athletes suffer this problem of pelvic floor weakening, and then owing to which they don't continue to excel in the field that they work upon. The device is so good that some of these physiotherapists have used it, and they say that unless and until it gets a kind of label through the approval authorities, it is difficult for us to even experiment. So we were compelled to go to some of those physiotherapists who are not part of corporate hospitals, who are driven by certain protocols. But when those set of physiotherapists tried, the results were so miraculous that at least through referrals, we did a kind of testing with seven patients. We had around 72 patients in a span of around 14 weeks who were referred to come and experience that. So these people have built some prototypes. You know that along with T-Hub, there is also a T-Works which helps you in terms of building prototypes. We approached them and they really helped us bring those, on an economy of scale, unless you produce an X number, you wouldn't strike that commercial equation for it. So that's where we come in terms of funding those people to help them run that. And I'm so glad to let you know that on a scale today, the first batch of production approximately is 2,200 units that they are producing, where hospitals have already placed an order for. So why am I talking all these things when artificial intelligence is spoken about in technical terms about drug discovery and all that? These are also things which are important. Someone was talking in the morning about the patient to doctor ratio. It's still dismal. I worked in 23,000 villages. I know how dismal it is when you go to such kind of villages. And when such kind of things happen, these things would play a great role. Like if you ask me, in AIMS, 8,000 is the OP in 4 departments while I was working in oncology. And I was stunned to see that those patients are lined up outside, and there were around 14 doctors in those departments which were taking care of those patients. Imagine that ratio of 14 is to 8,000. Where will they go? Unless and until devices of this nature come in, I don't think we'll be in a position to make those strides. But of course, there are challenges where regulatory approvals take little longer than what they are supposed to take. And if they have to be fast-paced, people sitting inside this room have to play that influential role. So that's where I end. I want to be very brief so that a lot of time could be spent in case if you're curious about asking questions, I'll be more than glad to answer them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. It was nice to hear about how technology is integrating with AI,
Yes.
and especially because I am an oncologist, so I am interested in the PAP, in the non-invasive way to see your cervical cancers. The biggest challenge is adopting and making this acceptable to the population.
Yes.
I just read that somewhere that even in Africa, mammography rates are 4 to 5%. In India, it's 1%.
Yes.
So we are actually worse than Africa when it
Yes.
comes to health screening. So yeah, in invasive things like this, or even in colonoscopy, doing a scopies and seeing your early polyps, is it's a big challenge to convince our population to do it,
Yes,
and that is where I think we should be working harder.
absolutely.
So
Thank you
you.
so much for endorsing it. That's why some of the state governments, like Telangana, they are pretty active. There is a cell where if you go approach and tell them this is what is being done, and it comes from T-Hub, there's a single window where you can approach and present your case. And if you build a kind of, they define the number. Say, suppose if you want to test the NGYN, you need to have at least 2,000 cases you should have demonstrated. They create a single window approval, what do you call, facility, where you can go test it and make it work. So, but it doesn't happen in across the country. So that's where presenting to you set of customers would really make a difference in terms of saying these things are happening, but you need to play catalyst in terms of moving it forward. Yeah, sorry. So, see, they have not been totally commercialized at this point in time. Prototyping is done, their licenses are done, but it would be perfectly Indianized. You'll be stunned to know the philosophy that we practice is my reflection of 23,000 villages that I worked should be able to afford if we launch something. And clinicians should be able to easily use and understand. Guess price? It would be around 3,800 to 4,000 rupees.
Can I?
Yes, please.
Is this NGYN similar with the NSV is a organization, so I've done some work with them.
Mm-hmm.
So we use the similar, but it's a camera based.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the picture and based on the picture, the AI will evaluate low risk, mid risk, moderate risk. The NSV is the same you're talking about NSV?
No, this is a different one. But
because they also know the NGYN only. But it's a camera based.
Okay.
Okay. One question I had, you said your organization funds some startup who are in this kind of domain. So which is that organization?
So the company's name is NeoAccess Health. We have a commercial organization as well as a social organization. We adopted around 450 villages to change the health ecosystem where we build the health-seeking behavior in the minds of the people, where health literacy is a challenge. It's a legacy that I'm trying to carry forward from the organization that I worked before. In Novartis, we adopted 23,000 villages across the country, and we ran around 70,000 health camps, 2.6 million health education meetings. We had 2,000 volunteering doctors. It's a Arogya Parivar. You can Google, it's a Harvard case study. And since Novartis has been to retreat in terms of thinking that the need of this is more in Africa and Latin, we decided why not we shoulder that responsibility, because I understand that need is still there in a country like India.
Yeah, I agree, because I am from oncology and palliative medicine, and palliative medicine less than 4% of our Indian population had access even to the palliative care. So I am in that domain, I am working, so I work a lot in the rural area.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll get connected with you.
Oh,
Thank
yes.
you so much.
I'll be more than glad to connect. Sure. Sorry, there's someone who asked this question. You raised your hand before anybody else. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you
So thank you so
sir.
much. I think I saved a little bit of time. Yeah.